Boardman, I beg your pardon, Canadian journalist, is joining us on the broadcast to talk about this. Daniel, appreciate you being here with us. You know, this has been a conversation in India for decades now. Even, so that some of us were not even born when this air crash happened. India has been talking about that this is something which the Khalistani terrorism modules have been responsible for, but no heed has been paid. In fact, the relationship between India got so sour at one point in time, especially under Justin Trudeau, that India had to pull a lot of diplomatic punches, to make sure that Indian lives are respected and Indian emotions are taken care of. What do you make of Canada finally coming to terms with the fact that India was right all along?
Well, it's not. Let me parse this out. We're not finally coming to the terms with India was right all along. We had agreed that it was Khalistani extremism originally. You're right to point out that we did nothing about it and completely fumbled that. That's another thing. It was in 2015 when Trudeau came in that the Khalistani link and the CSIS and intelligence was sort of, you could say, edited. That's when Khalistani was redacted and we decided to not say the word and obfuscate. So there was 10 years where it was obfuscation, and now we've kind of gone back to where we were before. So it's not like Canada's finally made this omission. We've actually corrected a specifically targeted omission we made under the Trudeau government, which was, again, had many ministers and supporters and ideologues who were directly, indirectly linked with the Khalistani movement, and then that manifested in a fight. So that's where Canada is. So where the Canadian government is now is kind of where it was in the 1980s, 1990s, and it's the Air India bombing is our original catch and release, justice failure, which has now metastasized to the rest of Canadian society. And this isn't totally uncommon in the West with, sort of bail reform and the post, Black Lives Matter, George Floyd riots, having this heavily anti-police movement and sort of pressure on the justice system to just not convict people. But if you want to look at all that in Canada, a lot of it does stem back to the way our sort of intelligence cops handled something really, really terrible in the terrorist attack in Air India. Just we weren't capable of recognizing and confronting evil in a clear and forthright manner. So we failed to confront it. And I think that the whole question of Air India now, and I guess India and a lot of the victims too, and remember, it takes two sides to tango in this. The Canadian government surely doesn't have a record worth the funding, but the Indian government's record on the Air India bombing and all that is not great either. It's not nothing. They're the ones who took out Twinder Parmar, so they get the bonus there. But there's one memorial that's I've been to. It's nearly impossible to reach. It's inside a government building they need clearance for, and it's a plaque on a wall inside. That doesn't count. Canada's better memorials than that. We have them at least in a park. In public. It's a little bit out of the way, but it's there. I can get to it anytime I want. And there's another memorial out in front. So we've had this sort of cone of silence and fear around the Khalistani movement going back 41 years now. And I think this has really debilitating effects on both governments. So the fact that I think you're now seeing more progress, which is willing to name it, right? If you can't name the problem, you cannot fix the problem. So the fact that the Canadian intelligence is now naming the problem again is good, right? You can't fix a problem if you can't name it. And the fact that the Indian government is getting a bit more comfortable to name it is also good. But if the Indian government wants, other governments to take Khalistan more seriously and push more brave and forthright manners towards confronting them, they should do that themselves and then ask people to follow the example. It's hard to ask someone of something of a country that you are too scared to do yourself because of the ghost of a terrorist organization 40 years old. And yes, they have children and some supporters out there. But this is why there's demand in India to be more,
All right. Okay. Fair enough, Daniel.